bots here farming outrage 24/7, trashing you online. Hashtag super shit.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Blood and Background Podcast. I'm Ryan from closeploitation.com, and I'm joined with my co-host and super guy, Martin.
How's it going?
Doing pretty well.
I'm bad.
We are, do you know what? You know what? We swore off superhero movies, didn't we?
For a while.
For a while, we said.
I think
you know
actually, while you're about to preface this, I'm going to go back and see when the last one we did was.
Okay. Yeah, I don't recall either. But yeah, for quite a while, you know, we tried to keep up with all of the Marvel and DC films. And I think I know when it was that we were like, okay, you know what? Just never mind. It was Wonder Woman 2, 1984, or whatever the fuck it was called. Whatever year it was. And that shit
would have been during COVID.
Yeah. Patty Jenkins directed that, and we were set to watch it, and I watched it, and I don't think you were able to get it or something. And whatever the case may be, we were like, you know what? That's it. This movie was shit for one thing, and we're not going to redo this episode at any point, and we're just gonna stop doing the all the superhero movies. So the DC films were the reason why we decided that we were going to stop trying to keep up with everything. And then not only that, but then you had Marvel, which was like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we just started releasing like TV shows that you have to keep up with routinely as well? You know, just to make it even harder to make sure that you see everything. If you didn't see that one episode of What If that one time, then you won't know what's going on in the next Doctor Strange 2 movie. I think Doctor Strange 2 was the last one we did, to be actually.
Is that your final guess?
I mean, if you're not counting the Batman, I think. Right? And there's Doctor Strange 2 after that. I can't remember. What do you got, historian? What was the last one we did?
Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Okay. Yep.
But we did quite a bit, like in a little queue, because Jesus Christ. July 1st, 2022, we did Sam Raimi's Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. But we also did, on April 22nd, The Batman. Mm-hmm. And we also did, on March 25th, Spider-Man No Way Home.
Mm-hmm.
Because those were like, even though we swore kind of them off in the 2020s, in 2020, we would say we did like the Spider-Man movies enough to continue along with the Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we did like that. We wanted to see Sam Raimi's Doctor Strange, his take on Doctor Strange. And the Batman, I don't really count because it kind of sits outside of the universe. So I don't count that one either. That one's kind of like on its own. We didn't do the Penguin, because it's kind of hard. We have done TV series in the past. The only one that we did throughout was the new Santa Claus TV series, the first season of that. But it's hard.
And as I say, and if you go very early into our oeuvre, we also did the first couple episodes of Ash versus Evil Dead.
It's true. Yeah. It's hard to do TV episodes, especially if you're not doing them episodically. Like you're not, taking them episode by episode and kind of dissecting them. So like, especially in a 10-hour series like The Penguin, it's very hard to distill it into one episode where, first of all, where you remember everything that happened between episode 1 and 10, and then to try to get through the whole thing. It's just, I don't know. It just doesn't work that well. So I can understand why people do like more of the episodic, like episode to episode. Let's take a look at episode 1 and episode 3. But yeah, we never ended up doing that. But regardless, we we swore off superhero movies, but we're back. We're tackling another one. And I guess the reason that we're tackling that is for a couple scenarios. One is that I think we're a little bit interested in James Gunn as a director to see what he does. Interestingly, we've never done the Guardians of the Galaxy series on here. We've done all of the other, during that heyday, we did all the other Marvel movies that came out, but we never did Guardians of the Galaxy. So that's interesting. Something maybe we'll have to do at some point, go back to those. But
I still actually haven't even seen any.
You've never seen any of the Guardians, so
no.
And also, I think we should also note that for me, I do believe James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy quite possibly could be the reason that we have all become superheroed out, because it really set the tropes for a superhero Marvel movie. A little, especially the first one, a little bash of comedy, throw in some popular tunes, from the 60s through the 80s is preferential. Little pull at the heartstrings, quirky cast of characters, and, sort of like a quality CGI. All of those things really became the norm for especially the Marvel-verse movies. And I blame James Gunn for the predicament that we're in now, because it really set the tone. And now every single superhero movie that you get is a combination of all of those things put together. And, the ingredients are kind of interspersed a little bit differently, but the essence is the same. It's basically James Gunn's idea of how the superhero movie should work. So I do blame him for that a little bit. But anyway, we were interested in how James Gunn would tackle the subject matter. It is a new start again for the DC universe, which, we've covered in the past. We covered Zack Snyder's failed universe, to a certain extent. We did not do the Batman v Superman 3 hour, or Justice League 3 hour cut. Although I did watch it. 4 hour cut.
I refuse to put myself through that.
I watched it. I don't think I'm better for it, but I watched it.
And like the fact that everyone that I knew was like, it makes the movie so much better, you got to watch. And it's like, listen, if I couldn't barely stand sitting through 2.5 hours of that shit, adding another hour and a half of like context isn't going to make it better.
Exactly.
It's already shit,
If you need 4 hours of movie to get your point across, it probably has already failed.
I understand, like, if you're doing something like as grandiose as the Justice League, but then something like deviated up into 2 films, like Infinity War.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I don't. So, anyways, basically, that's we haven't been interested in superhero movies since then, but this is kind of a new dawning for DC Universe. And also, not only that, I feel like, not me in particular, I don't really feel that much of an affinity for this superhero. Never really followed much of the storyline of this superhero. I never was, nostalgically, I was not really that interested in this superhero throughout like my comic reading days. But I don't know. Are you? Are you like a big fan?
I do like Superman. Again,
just drop the name right there. I was trying to avoid it. No, it's fine. Everybody.
I do like Superman. Again, never been one for the comics because with my autism,
there's no good place to start.
Yeah, but as somebody though who appreciates these characters through different types of mediums, such as like Paul Dini's, animated universe with the Batman the Animated Series, Batman Beyond, Justice League, and Justice League Unlimited. Superman the Animated Series is also great and an underrated and really, just as worthwhile of a watch as Batman the Animated Series. It's terrific. It's really well done. Again, it's great, and I've mentioned it before, as great as John Williams' Richard Donner score is, the Shirley Walker theme for that show, to me, is the Superman theme. It's the one that I think of when I see Superman. So, and through video games and I do like the first couple of Superman films, especially the first one with Richard Donner. Classic, very, So I do like Superman, and I was really annoyed during the Zack Snyder times with Man of Steel and other shit, because it just... What's the point?
Superman?
Well, what's the point? Because the point of Superman is to be a beacon of hope, a beacon of light. The flame from Olympus that never goes out. You can't break him. Sure, there's ups and downs, but you can't break him. You didn't need to, especially right after the Nolan films of Batman and everyone's saying everything's got to be dark and gritty. You need Kevin Costner being like, no, I'll show you the way. And other nonsense ensue.
I mean, I feel like the comics between Batman and Superman have pretty routinely drawn their, basically drawn the parallels between the differences in their characters. I mean, Batman is always the dark, brooding one, and Superman is always the bright and aspiring and always hopeful one. And so there was always, especially whenever you had comics that combined the two, I'm not talking about like Justice League type comics, but ones where it was literally just Batman and Superman, you always had sort of the juxtaposition between the two characters. And so to kind of, Zack Snyder's look at that, which was basically everybody's dour and upset about everything, didn't really work that well.
It's not like I said, it's just not like, I understand because Injustice did it with the video games. Like, what if Superman, cause it's supposed to be an Elseworld story. What if Superman went rogue and went evil? Okay. But that's usually like when it comes to like a side story for Superman, that's like the one popular media always goes to. And it just feels, very tried, not fresh, not unique. Superman as Superman seems pretty fresh and unique right now, especially in the climate that we are living through these days. So
yep. And that that kind of maybe summarizes for me my feelings about this film. And I won't reveal it at this point because we'll wait till we get further into the discussion about the movie. But again, I was always the Batman guy. More of the dour person, the pessimist. I am a pessimist at heart. My wife will tell you that. Like, she's always the optimist. I'm always the pessimist. Whenever there's like a difference of opinion between us, it always falls along those lines. So I'm much more of a pessimist. I was, very akin to Batman, and Batman always looking at the worst in things. So I don't have that sort of nostalgia for Superman. I was always a Batman dude, but again, was open to the idea of James Gunn taking on the Superman universe. I'm curious about where he was going to take the DC universe from, where he's starting out with Superman. Again, it's not like we haven't seen this before from DC. Man of Steel is technically Zack Snyder's first attempt at starting the DC universe too. So it all starts with Superman most of the time. So anything else you want to add about James Gunn, Superman as a character, anything else like that before we get into other stuff?
I think that's about it.
All right. Well, let's talk about the beer that we have on the show today. I was tasked with getting the beer this week, and I grabbed one because, Martin was talking about how he, it's been hot. There are certain types of beers that you really want when it's hot. Weren't really interested in grabbing anything really, intricate or, big flavor profile. So what I went with, and we've actually had it before, we've tried it before, but we haven't really had it on the show, and it's been a while since we've had it. I went with Mill Brewing Company's Kold One, which is a German kolsch style. if you know anything about us, we don't have it on the show that often, but we are very big fans of kolsches. Kolsches in general are like super drinkable, lovely. Very, the style itself is just something when you see it, it stands out to you, especially for summer months. So I thought it would be a really good pick for us. And also we've, correct me if I'm wrong, historian, but we've never had Mill House Brewing on the show. So I thought, again, too, highlighting another new brewery that we've never had on here was a good bet.
I don't think so.
It doesn't stand out to me.
I was going to check and see in the untapped logs.
Yeah, and I tried to check too. My only relation to them really was having them at a local beer tasting session. So I thought, again, we want to highlight local breweries. We want to highlight places that we've never had on the show before. This is technically not really that local to us. It's from Poughkeepsie, New York. So, if you know anything about our geography, it's actually not that not that close in relation, but local enough to where I would want to support them. So, this is
the only episode that it would come close into contact with. Is I checked into this beer, February 22nd, 2020, and the episode that would come close to that is the Spook Who Sat by the Door, which was the 25th. So we did it for that, but again, when you've done as many episodes as we have, you're going to have some retreads, try some new things. So.
Yeah, and I didn't have any record of it, so I don't know. But anyway, Kold One, it's a kolsch. I think it's very tasty. Goes down very smooth. I think it's a pretty perfect distillation of the style for me. It's got a nice malty breadiness to it, but still being very light, lager-esque. I also think that there is a very fine line here between, and probably something that's why we really like kolsches very much. They can be pretty similar in style to what would end up being sort of like your fest beer style, in my opinion. Of course, they use different hops for a kolsch than a fest beer, but I do find them pretty similar, and I think that's where my love of kolsch extends from as well. Is that because I really like fest beer and Oktoberfest styles, and I think it just translates really well to a lighter, more drinkable, sessionable kolsch. I think Mill House has done a really good job with this kolsch, and it's very tasty, light. It's not heavy on the alcohol content. Get a nice biscuity, bready flavor to it. Very, very good. But again, standard kolsch style. There's nothing new or different about it. It's a perfect distillation representation of kolsch. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. You mentioning the fest beer comparison, very good. Because it is like a mix of a Vienna lager and a fest beer. Like it's crisp and refreshing, nice little hop kiss to it. Nice, medium mouthfeel to it, and definitely has a breadiness to it that gives it some good body that, you wouldn't expect in a beer that's this crisp and refreshing. So it's just a well-rounded, style of beer that, on hot days when you're mowing and weed whacking, you want to have something at the end of it, you fill you up and make you be like, want a pretzel? This will do the trick.
I think even the can mentions a lawnmower. Says this is not your dad's lawnmower beer. So, yeah.
But I like it. I am kind of wishing I got some lemonade to try making a homemade shandy.
Oh, there you go. That'd be
see how that would, how that would do, because it'd probably be great. But
yeah,
it's definitely good.
I can also verify that we did not do this beer on the episode of The Spook Who Sat by the Door, because that was Omegang's Granola Stout. I know that for a fact. I just looked it up. So, so we missed that one. So that's good. But yeah, anyway, Mill House Brewing Company from Poughkeepsie, New York. Check them out. Again, like I said,
wait,
I had that many from them.
Where?
Poughkeepsie.
You been picking your toes in Poughkeepsie?
Yeah. I had a call back there. I have never been to Poughkeepsie, so I couldn't have been picking my toes there, but
it's a nice place.
Yeah, never been there.
Good food.
I've probably been by it, past near it. Never been.
Well,
there.
if you've ever, been going down to the city, you've passed.
Yeah,
by
past near it, adjacent to it.
It's just,
So, but never actually been. There.
oh,
All right, let's talk Superman, Soups, Super Guy, Super Dog,
super dude.
Super Dude. Yeah. Man, where to begin? All right. James Gunn. James Gunn's take on Superman. Immediately, I think you get from the opening scenes of the movie. This feels like a completely different feel from Zack Snyder. It's not dour. It's even
There's color.
Yeah. I feel like there was like a intentional sort of color grading going on with this movie at the beginning of the film to have like, oh, we're in like this very white snow, because it's it takes place right next to the Fortress of Solitude. So you got a very snowy, white, icy, almost like basically like your Apple commercial, backdrop of like extreme whiteness. And I feel like that was intentional to highlight the fact that like here's Superman's cape. It's like fucking blue as hell, and here's the red of Superman's, outfit. It's super red. Did I say cape blue? I meant cape red, suit blue. Got those backwards. But anyway, the film's color grading is like almost a intentional like statement about like this is not going to be the Zack Snyder dour dark fest that you expected from the previous DC universe. It's going to be bright and lofty, and there's going to be fluffy clouds in the sky and flying through the air. And not only that, I mean, the opening sequence of Superman flying through the air, and there's the kind of like that GoPro cam following him as he's flying through the air on his chest. Definitely reminds of the Superman of yore. The Donner films of yore, flying through the air. I don't know. I think you mentioned that to me like immediately when we were watching the movie.
Oh, the opening credits.
The opening credits. I mean, so again, like I feel like that's James Gunn's statement. That's like this is not going to be the, brooding, pouty Superman films that you might have expected. So I guess your enjoyment of that ultimately hinges like right there on the beginning of like, what do you think about that being a very, more approachable and less sad and depressed Superman? How do you feel about that? Like, what did you think?
I like it. I like it a lot. The one thing with the opening that was kind of weird is I understand and I appreciate the film not being an origin story.
Yes.
Because again, at this point, the character's been around for almost 100 years. The tale is as old as time. It's literally like mythology at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole, and again, this is where, me not knowing comic books, I'll have to ask some friends that I have, but like metahumans introduced 3 centuries ago. Like, wait, when in the 1700s were metahumans running around? Was George Washington a metahuman? Is that how he beat the British, or whatever, Yeah. And so, like, that's, like, kind of, like, got me a little, like, what? And then it's, like, Superman's been doing this for 3 years now. It's like, okay, cool. So we have some context. This is his first loss. And then you see him get careening down and, the shit beat out of him. And you're like, oh, what's going on? But then Crypto shows up, the flying super dog, and is just an adorable little nuisance for him.
This is kind of off topic, but if George Washington was a metahuman, do you feel like that would take away from the heroicism that you see in like George Washington crossing the Delaware River and that, the famous painting? Does that take away from him at all?
He was actually flying. That's how he.
Yeah.
That's actually how
artist representation of George Washington.
It was a metaphor, of him crossing the Delaware. Because him and the troops, he was actually an original member of the Green Lantern Corps. He used his ring
That's right.
to transport them across the river so they could put a boot up the Hessian's ass. But no, it's an interesting setup. And Crypto showing up's fun. I like Crypto a lot, actually. I think it's a lot of fun to kind of be like, hey, there's a Kryptonian dog. The one thing I don't like about Crypto is, why is it CGI?
It's always a CGI dog. Yeah.
You can't just have some poor puppy just do the job.
I agree with that. I want to go back to your discussion about the, basically the idea that they're not going through the Superman origin story. Because that really strikes me in this movie. And I have conflicting opinions on that. I do understand the fact that we don't necessarily need an origin story of Superman because that's been done. I never saw Man of Steel. I assume they did the origin story in that. Did they?
Yes.
You saw it, right? So I never saw that. So but again, I understand because Batman has a very similar element to it, right? Everyone knows the origin of Batman being the fact that his parents were murdered. And I understand the need to skip through that because there's a lot of baggage that entails. There's a lot of time wasted on the lead up to it. I think Scott Snyder did a pretty good job of managing the origin story of Batman by acknowledging the fact that, yes, that event happened, but then changing the reasoning behind him becoming Batman. So I do understand the need to, kind of skip over that, and it's a lot of baggage to deal with. At the same time, Superman 2025, the James Gunn film, skips over so much of the origin that I do question its how it manages some of the characterization of its characters. Because I feel like skipping over certain things, like Superman crash landing on Earth, as a baby, be taken in by his parents, but by his foster parents. That's all fine. I don't mind that they skip over that, but stuff like him meeting Lois and having striking up a relationship feels like it's kind of secondary in this movie to the point where it's just acknowledged that the audience would expect Superman and Lois to be together. And that's fine, but I feel like the film is missing something there with the way that the relationship plays out, where it doesn't really feel like organic chemistry to me. I don't know if you got that feeling either, or if it's kind of my problem with the movie, but I didn't.
No, I would say it's definitely not organic chemistry. I'll give it a little bit of slack on that, though, just because Lois states they've only been dating for 3 months.
Mm.
So that's why I can kind of not take big issue with the fact that it's not that they're not that
they're not close. Yeah,
the chemistry seems off. Because again, with the Zack Snyder films, they've been together for forever, and they're two, one's in Kansas and the other one's in Florida, they're worlds away. And that so here I can understand the lack of chemistry at times between the two, but so that wasn't a big issue for me when it comes to that.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm okay with it. It's not a deal breaker for me for the movie, but I do think the film kind of speeds through some of those elements. Even Superman as a character for me doesn't necessarily always feel really fleshed out. Again, I feel like James Gunn is expecting and respecting that the audience will understand Superman has powers like being, literally the Man of Steel, mostly
Faster
invincible.
Than a speeding bullet.
Yeah, fast, flying.
Kryptonite.
Kryptonite as his weakness, laser eyes occasionally. But I do feel like sometimes the movie does not showcase the actual power of Superman. it takes a step back, and I understand that it wants to make him seem a little bit more human, because that is the whole idea, the theme surrounding the movie, is that Superman is, just because he's an alien, he's come to Earth and he understands humanity in a way that maybe some other people that are actually human, like Lex Luthor, his arch nemesis in this film, do not understand. And so that point is not lost on me, but at the same time, I did feel like Superman sometimes feels like a secondary person in his own film, especially when it comes to like action sequences, which I would argue this film does not do that well. Relies on a lot of CGI, relies on a lot of like non-realistic action to get the actual fighting across. So I don't know.
I would agree with that. I would agree that the action is definitely a lower point of the film, because the CGI it's not as like convincing, and not really doesn't really have like a nice flow to it that makes sense most of the time. It just seems very chaotic and kind of hard to see, even though it's not like the Snyder films, where it's being drenched in darkness to obscure the fighting. It's all in color, but again, like the fighting itself is, very just bland and boring and pedantic.
I'm glad you brought that up, because the CGI, you're right, is not draped in like that darkness that a lot of these films like to do, because it does hide some of the, the quote unquote like seams of the CGI. It's not dark. Most of the time, the film is actually very colorful in the way that it portrays all of its CGI, from the sky sequences, flying through the sky, to the like, what is that? I don't even remember what that's called, like the positron river or whatever the fuck they're falling into in the pocket universe.
Yeah, that's good enough. You don't have to.
whatever
you don't have to
quantum physics thing that they're trying to get across, like they know what they're talking about. Whatever that is, that's very colorful as well. But again, to me, that CGI,
it just made me think of not Attack of the Clones. You just made me think of Revenge of the Sith, and like, I have the high ground, Superman. Like,
Yeah, I don't know. It just didn't do it for me. DC has always, for me, had the weaker of the CGI elements to it. I don't know if that's just because they're cheap on the special effects or what, but
I think it's probably because every other year Warner Brothers doesn't know if Warner Brothers Discovery is going tits up or not.
That's true.
They're sitting around.
Sure. Do we employ this?
Yeah, like they're sitting around just waiting. Like, if this one movie fails, everything's up. We're all up shit's creek. Yeah. But if it's good, then we can keep rolling for nothing. It's not like Disney with an endless supply of money that they have at their hands.
I think honestly they have a button and a big screen in the in the producer's room, and it just is a button that says restart or not. And like they just wait for the box office information about the film, in this case Superman, and then they just either hit the restart button or like move on next one. And so again,
after our ticket stubs were bought for the Mummy, boom, they hit that reset button. Like, where's Brendan Fraser?
I know, and I think I think you're right though, to a certain extent. There is that sort of quality of being up in the air, and so some people probably wouldn't want to take on a risky role like that. Like, if you're a good special effects artist, are you going to go with DC Universe, who maybe restarts every 2 years? Or are you going to go with Marvel, where you probably have a pretty solid position for
20 years?
Yeah, exactly. Like, for however long you want it, basically. Like, you're going to be working on special effects. So I think there's a little bit of truth to that. But again, I do think that DC and the Superman films, and I think too, I think they are going for different aesthetics. Especially from James Gunn perspective on Superman, it does seem like he's trying to maybe go a different direction from what might be expected from a superhero film in this, in regards to special effects. because I do think he is making an intentional choice to try to not drape everything in darkness and cloudiness and fog and stuff like that. But at the same time, I just don't think it works. Some of the things that were like more egregious to me were like anytime the what's her name with the what do they even call those, like nanobots or whatever that she has?
Oh yeah. Don't even get me started.
Whatever the nanobot shit is. That
just
character,
generic nanobot shit.
Yeah, didn't love like any of that CGI or anything, especially I felt like that was really forced and didn't look very good.
I kind of piggybacking off this. One of the big qualms I have with this film, speaking of the nanobot shit, villains.
Mm-hmm.
You got Lex Luthor
Mm-hmm.
and a bunch of jabronis. A jabroni squad. Like, literally the weakest part of this film is its cadre of villains.
Yep.
Lex Luthor is great. You know, what the hell?
Nicholas Hoult.
Nicholas Hoult,
Lex.
horrific as Lex Luthor. Great. But this whole, like, I'm just engineer and I'm, clone, Ultraman. Fucking stupid.
When they revealed the clone, I will not lie. I thought it was fucking
terrible. I was like so annoyed. Like, God, like, why? Why?
I mean, not only that though, but I'm not even joking. I literally I was like, when they revealed the clone at first, I was like, oh, the bad guy that's been, what do they call him? The Hammer of Baravia or whatever.
Yeah.
It's Topher Grace. Topher Grace from that 70s show with long hair. Because I honestly, like, they did look like, especially with like the longer hair, he kind of looked like Topher Grace to me. And I was like, at first it was kind of lost on me. I was like, what's the reveal here? Like, it's just Topher Grace. Okay, like, who's Topher Grace in this movie?
Just, all of a sudden you're hearing hanging out.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, that kind of was lost on me. It took me a couple minutes or a couple seconds to understand that was just David Cornsweet with a wig on, and
it's just so bland and boring and just a cop out.
Yeah,
like at least for all the flaws that Batman v Superman has, especially with it being like the second film and they introduced Doomsday.
Be careful.
At least they
temper yourself. You're about to almost give a compliment to Batman v Superman.
At least they did something, and even though Doomsday looked like shit and everything, but I mean, at least they did something. Like, a clone is so lazy.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense from the part of Lex, like, I just cloned you, and that's why I'm whooping your ass. But at the same time, like, him and, like, the engineer, like, I'm a nanobot machine now. Whoopity-woo, and I got these black tentacles. It's just fucking terrible.
Well,
like, it would have been better if Lex, built, like, a machine for him to, like, operate to fight Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Or something like that. Like,
instead of giving the Injustice style, like, video game commands.
Yeah. Which is, oh my God, so fucking stupid. R2, F1. Like, you think just because, like, you've watched Superman fight, like, oh, if you just counter this, like, it's that to me
didn't love that either. No,
so fucking stupid. Like,
I found it was very cringeworthy when he was giving out commands like 1818.
Bingo. It sounds like a bit like he's like Saul Goodman do it at the bingo hall. Like it's just so fucking stupid. Like it's such a missed opportunity.
I mean, speaking of the what you call the what'd you call them, the
Jabroni Squad.
The Jabroni Squad. I mean, I will say that this film, like you said, it definitely it suffers from what a lot of films that were, especially DC films, try to do, in that they try to pack the film. And I think we've talked about this with Spider-Man 2 specifically. I think some of the later Spider-Man movies have this issue too. They try to pack the film with too many adversaries. And it never really works out because it always feels like overkill. It never really feels organic to the film itself. It never really makes a lot of sense to have that many adversarial characters together. And I think like this film also suffers from that because even at 2 hours and 9 minutes does feel too long. It feels like almost like an anime of here's the one dude that's, coming to fight you. And then, oh no, it's not over yet. You've got another guy to fight. And like you're kind of working through like a dojo of all different kinds of people that you've got to fight off. Anime does that well because it's episodic and it kind of gets you pumped up and you're amped up. And you're like, oh, that wasn't his ultimate power yet.
Nani?
Yeah. But I feel like Superman misses out on that, not only because it is just too overly long, I think, extending that like fight sequence out too long and, Lex Luthor's fighting with the clone is ridiculous. But I think also too, like the Jabroni squad is really uninteresting. Doesn't offer much to it. I think the whole nanobot element is just not very interesting and not used well.
Bland and pedantic and been done a billion times at this point. It's move along.
Yeah. I guess you kind of touched on this. So you like Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. How do you feel like Lex Luthor comes off in this movie? Especially considering like the historicness of Lex Luthor being an arch nemesis of Superman. Like
I think he does a good job. I think he's very menacing and funny and like especially for like a CEO Lex, a smarmy little shithead, and very comic booky, which I think fits it. Like he plays it, he hams it up, he's enjoying the time. Again, this is what Jesse Eisenberg was trying to do, but I'm more serious. I got like a Parkinson's tick, and But yeah, no, I think he does a great job. I think him as like a main villain is, one, good to do for the first, Superman film. But two, like it registers because you have Superman who is the embodiment of all of everything that is good, and Lex pissed off at it because it's, he's not that good, as great as him. And he's, very, why am I drawing a blank on the word? Envious. Sorry, Jesus. Sorry about that. Very envious of, Superman and his powers, his talent. And also too, the film is kind of a subtle remake in a sense of Batman v Superman, because again, a lot of the talk of why Batman has to, why Bruce Wayne has to take on Superman is because he's an all-powerful metahuman. And we can't control that. We need to do something about it. Well, it's the same thing here. Same idea, same concept, but this time they really lean into the, modern stuff with him being an alien, not just a metahuman. And Lex wanting to destroy anything that's not human.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what do you think about the whole idea, again, that this movie kind of boils down to, like, can we trust the morals of this godlike figure, Superman? Because ultimately, Lex Luthor's goal is to expose Superman as being, ultra powerful being that has come to Earth, and his motive, or his, whatever his parents sent him there for, is to basically become a enslavement of the human race, right? Like basically be a leader of the human race because they don't know any better. They're simple folk and they don't know anything. And that kind of boils down to the same idea of like what Civil War was about too, right? Like the idea that we can't just trust these superheroes to have the good of everyone at their, in the forefront of their brain. Are they motivated by something else? I feel like this theme is really overdone at this point, and I don't really love that Superman goes in that direction as well, especially being like the main impetus of Superman himself, being like the harbinger of hope and the person who is basically acting as the moralistic element of humanity. Do you agree? How do you feel about that?
I would agree that I'm kind of over that moralistic argument. It is an interesting one too, because I can only imagine in a world with metahumans, like I would probably I probably wouldn't want, someone flying around, stopping stuff in the name of its morals, whether I feel they're good or bad or not, unopposed. But it's kind of like that's the point of superhero stories. So again, I think there needs to be, there's got to be that little suspension of disbelief there. Which I think, again, as you said, like once was probably an interesting philosophical question to endure, is now, one that's beyond well-trodden ground at this point. And I think, like, the one of the parts that I didn't care for at all is, like, the whole Lois interviewing Superman on the record, like, where she's being a hard-boiled detective reporter, and Superman's answering these questions, and they're getting into, like, a political bout of, like, is what he's doing moral or not? And it's, like, kind of, like, doesn't really go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't, because again, like, Superman's like, oh, I don't want people to die, and this and that. She's like, well, do you think you should be doing, like, this and that? And I, like, and that's, like, another thing, too, like, we can talk about next, is, like, a lot of the politics in this movie, which I know it's getting a lot of praise, it's very muddled.
Yeah.
And very not nuanced. Like, there's no nuance in, like, the politics of this movie.
You didn't find the Albert Einstein on meth Baravian leader to be nuanced in this?
Well, it's because it's trying to, the allegory here, it's trying to do two things at once. It's trying to be Israel and Gaza, and also Russia and Ukraine at the same time.
Sure. Because
they're definitely pulling, James Gunn's pulling from both things. But at the same time, what's the answer here? Like, there's no answer. Like, the politics here are just childlike. Yeah. Like, oh, there's this war happening. What if Superman stopped it? One, like, what they're describing and showing isn't war, it's genocide, which again would relate to what's going on with Israel and Gaza. Genocide. Like, just troops showing up with, guns and blasting children down. But the answer, like, they show, like, well, Superman shows up and stops, and so does the Justice Gang. Maybe that's what we need. But again, like, what's the answer here? Like, what are they trying to say? Mm-hmm. That we need superheroes to just show up to fix these things because our politicians are weak and inept? Like, cool. Like, thanks for making the point about, the scummy politics here. But you're not offering any answers. You're just kind of like Joe Roganing it. Like, what if, like, I'm high. Like, what if Superman showed up during Vietnam and killed Ho Chi Minh? Wouldn't the world be better? Like, it's just not. There's no nuance to it at all. It's very, very boorish.
I think that kind of segues into how I feel about the film as a whole, in terms of how, you said it well, political ideology is not nuanced. It's very, like, over the top, and, like, literally the Baravian leader is like, you can't,
BB he's BB and Putin, just like,
right.
slam.
There's no argument to be like, well, maybe that guy's kind of a nice guy. Like, like, maybe they got good intentions. It doesn't leave anything to the imagination at all. So I think that kind of makes sense within the scope of Superman as a whole, because I do find that the film is, it is full of hope. It is full of sort of like a levity that you don't necessarily always see from superhero films. Marvel in its universe often has films that have a weight to them, but at the same time, occasional levity. Certain films will go further with that, right? So, like, some of them are more comedic than others. Thor being an example, Guardians of the Galaxy being an example of films that are by intention a little bit more, have a little bit more levity to them because they aren't maybe necessarily about like extreme genocide of a human race or something like that. So I'm fine with levity to a certain extent. I feel like Superman takes it a little like a step too far with the James Gunnianism of it all, in that I think you said it when we were discussing the film after we saw it, that there can't be like 2 minutes without something somewhat funny or comedic happening. And I don't really love that. And I feel like it is tonally a little bit weird in Superman because
he's playing Russian roulette with some guy, to make Superman try to tell him something. Kills the guy on the second try, and he's like, "Oh, I guess that went a little quicker than I thought. I'll have to get someone else."
Yeah.
Like, it's like stuff like that that's like very tone deaf. Like, it's not like, it doesn't let the emotions of the scene play out in a way that make any sense.
It's weird because I feel like they were going a different route for that. Like Lex Luthor being like a really goofy supervillain, arch nemesis type of thing where like, yes, he has aspirations and yes, he wants to take over the world, but they're like sort of like in a goofy way, like there's a way that comics do that where, it's sort of like got a levity to it that's not, I'm murdering a bunch of people. And maybe the end goal truly is that, but there's a supervillain element to it that's just comes off as like a little bit more comedic. I don't really know how to describe that. It has a feeling. It's not really like something that you can describe, but this film definitely has a lot of elements to it. James Gunn, you could feel James Gunn trying to be like more like the comics, more like Silver Age style comics, which, just as a note, I'm not a huge fan of. I don't really love the Silver Age of comics. Find them to be a little bit like cringy at times. And I think that Gunn kind of errs on that side for the most part in Superman. Has like I don't know, just like a more comedic bent to it. But like you said, there are these weird tonal shifts where, all of a sudden Lex Luthor pulls out a gun and just murders a dude. And the film kind of just plays it off and it's just kind of like, yeah, that happened. And it like really broke Superman for a moment. But then everything kind of goes back to stasis and Lex Luthor's kind of still the cheesy, goofy supervillain of Silver Age comics. I don't know. To me, it felt really weird at times. And I felt like it was a little bit exploitative in those moments. Like, and I'm not one to be offended by exploitative nature. We talk extensively about exploitative films on this podcast, but at the same time, it just felt really strange to me, especially considering that, again, that was like a person of color, as like sort of like the woman in a refrigerator type element that this film has, and it's sort of the impetus for Superman being like, I really fucking hate Lex Luthor now. It not only that, and it also has to shoe in a dog as well, like animal cruelty. I don't know. I just felt like those tonal shifts did not work for this movie, at least for me. I did not like it. If you're going to go a comic book route like that, very comic book supervillainy, then go with like the giant kaiju that's going to smash Metropolis, because that's sort of like goofiness to it. Or, yes, go with I have a ship built into this ridiculous looking, not sinister at all, like Lex Luthor Corp building. Those types of things make sense tonally, because yes, they do have at the heart of them human mortality, but it's not really like in your face, like a Russian roulette style, gun to the head. It has a mortality to it. I don't know. Maybe that doesn't make sense. Maybe I'm sounding a little I don't know, hypocritical, but for me it just did not work that well. I didn't enjoy that. What else?
What'd you think of the monkey farm?
Stupid. Hated it. Again, that's another thing that I'm talking about.
The
right?
troll farming, that's like, most
Right.
people wouldn't like
Yeah.
probably.
Exactly. Like again, and I'm fine with like the pocket universe thing. Like that's fine. It's outrageous, but I'm fine with it. But like, I think I draw the line at the fact that like it's literal monkeys at a troll farm, and again, it's just got that goofiness of like, okay, if the whole film was goofy like that, and Lex Luthor was just goofy, which he mostly is for almost all of the film, he is like sort of that goofy supervillain element that's like Jeff Bezos on, amped up times 10.
He didn't get to space, and that's why he's so sad.
What's that?
He didn't get to space, that's why he's so
That's
sad.
right. Or Billy Corgan, who went a different direction instead of smashing pumpkins.
Still, one of the best things is when you smash something, you can look at me and go, the world is vamp.
Exactly. Like I'm cool. Like that would be fine, but tonally, the film sort of shifts away from that at times, and I did not like. I thought that was just dumb. The monkey thing. it's just it didn't work again for me. One other thing that we didn't. Well, so there's a couple of things we haven't talked about. What do you think about Rachel Brosnahan as Lois?
She's fine.
Just fine.
It's just she's all right. I don't really have too much to.
Do you think Lois is a good character in this? She does get to do quite a bit. Again, like I said, Superman kind of takes a back seat at times, especially considering we haven't talked about this yet either.
She does more than just say, that's his mother,
Yes, yeah.
So yeah, like I mean, again, like the whole like Justice Gang stuff is really. I just kind of find like Guy Gardner's great, but Hawk Girl's just kind of okay,
Mm-hmm.
and like Mr. Terrific, I think might overstay his welcome a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
And you could definitely tell James Gunn's leaning into like the deeper cuts of like the DC pantheon here instead of like going with something more tried and true.
Do you
Because you gotta think about it. If this is 3 years of Superman being Superman, and there's got to be different variations of these like meta-human groups flying around. It can't just be the only one around is the Justice Gang with Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, Hawk Girl, and Mr. Terrific.
Well, do you think that like Green Lantern and Mr. Terrific are too big of a focal point? Do you think they take away from Superman a little bit in this movie?
They do a little, and I think they're there just to kind of serve as like Guardian style James Gunn comedy of like cracking jokes and like, oh, we're taking them out, and when I'm taking them out of the ring, it's my middle finger popping up to the ground, and like stuff like that. Like, I mean, they're not bad, but again, they're not bad. But again, as you said, it does kind of make Superman at times feel like he's in the rear, the rear passenger seat instead of driving his own film.
Yeah, because I mean, I actually am a little bit. It did make me a little bit more interested to see like a sort of Green Lantern film with Nathan Fillion, because I felt like they did a pretty good job with that, especially harkening back to sort of like the historicness of this type of Green Lantern, and and again, Mr. Terrific does quite a bit of stuff throughout the movie, like especially considering Superman for a lot of time is sidelined. I feel like Mr. Terrific sort of shines here, and they use him quite a bit. And it kind of takes away from Superman. It for me, like again, I think like the movie, for it being about Superman, a lot of times it makes Superman look pretty weak, and I don't know that's the picture that you want to portray, especially for your first film in the universe. I don't know. I mean. And again, I don't think that Gunn does a good job of setting up what feels like a universe. I don't know if you felt that way. This movie doesn't really set up much in what you would call a universe. I guess maybe it's trying to do something like Iron Man did, where it's just sort of like
let the film speak for itself and kind of branch off from that.
Yeah, like here's the movie, here's the superhero. You guys know that there's other superheroes in this universe, but right now here's this dude and this is what we're going to focus on. Like, I mean, I kind of get that to a certain extent, like don't force the universe. But again, I don't know that it does a really good job, at least for me, making me want to experience or look forward to the next part of the universe. It felt very sterile in that regard. In my opinion,
I would agree. What do you think about? I had the thought. Hold on a second. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
I lost my thought for a second.
I got one. How do you feel about Metropolis in this movie?
It's fine. It looks like just a regular old city outside of
NYC, baby.
Just outside of like the LexCorp. Man, that doesn't look scary at all. Or the Dairy Planet where the building's half the size of the statue on the
LexCorp like lording over everybody in a ridiculous films. Yeah, like Eye of Sauron up there. Yeah.
I do love to in 2025 these fucks working at the Daily Planet are all like passing papers around. Like it's not just like, they're relying on the digital media. They're like, print it. Make sure you print it and hit the print. Like, like it's Orson Welles and Citizen Kane for fuck's sake.
And that's the thing too about these types of movies is they always have this breakaway to like, oh, this just in live on literally everybody's phone. Doesn't matter what kind of phone it is. It's always here.
Thank you.
Here's a live broadcast of this transgression that's occurred that we found out about Superman.
Thank you.
I don't know.
You reminded me.
Yeah.
How happy were you to see Michael Ian Black getting work?
Love Michael Ian Black getting a role here. He does do a pretty damn good Tucker Carlson impression in this movie.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
That's pretty much what he's going for, and I think he nails it. He's even got the hair and everything. Like the askew hair at times, like when he's breaking in, it's like, oh my god, I can't believe Lex Luthor. He's got the askew hair that Tucker Carlson.
Oh,
it's great.
So what I was gonna say, thank you for reminding me. One, two-part question. One, what are your thoughts about the message that Jor-El has for Kal-El?
I think you mean Bradley Cooper being there for whatever reason in this movie. Yes, the message that he's got. Okay.
So, like, telling him to be kind and good and help people.
Yeah, the one that he's focused on throughout is, that they play for him. And
yeah. It ends up being conquer Earth. These people are stupid. Get a harem.
Again, like I said, I'm not a huge Superman aficionado, so I don't really know the lore that well. I don't remember though Jor-El being like a
that part. Yeah, no, that part wasn't part of the Superman.
Yeah. So I mean, it's fine.
I think it would have been better, like, if it was, like, Lex manipulated the message, but the fact they're like, no, that's what they originally planned. Fucking stupid. Like, it's to show that, like, well, in spite of that, you become the man you've become because of, like, your belief in being good and helping humanity. But it's just stupid. Like, yes, as Krypton dies, fly off, son, and have a harem and conquer. Like, he's like fucking Goku. I
mean, I think it's a dumb inclusion. I agree with you. I think it would have been more effective if they would just run with the fact that, Lex Luthor made all that up. Because it would have been more realistic too, in the sense that like
that he manipulated media, not the fact that he's like, it turns out that's actually true.
Yeah. Who knew? Yeah. Who knew? I mean, who
knew that Jor-El was on Epstein's list?
Yeah. I mean, I do agree. And again, I think it does go against the lore that I know of for Superman. I don't recall that ever being.
There's probably like some obscure Elseworld story or something where it's like, well, you're supposed to go and conquer Earth and, instead.
Again, too, we have to think about the creepiness of the fact that his parents are like, yeah, you're what, 6 months old? I hope you have a lot of women in your life. You know,
You
I
listen,
there's a
son.
lot of women.
There's gonna be times where you're gonna want to fuck her in the ass. Don't.
Yeah. It's one of those,
You make a lot of little Kryptonians.
discounting the fact that you're thinking about your 6-month-old son having sex in the long run, but yeah. Also, I mean, I think that it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And again, the fact too that the film kind of doesn't necessarily relate to is the fact that like he's listened to just a partial recording. What happened if Superman listened to the full recording his entire life? Like, oh, it comforts him when he hears about him having a harem. You know,
He's walking around Smallville with a giant boner. Like, Mom and Dad told me to fuck a lot of bitches.
I think that might have influenced him a little bit, just to, to have that. But and
So,
again,
like-
too, I guess that brings up a good point. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're
there.
fine.
But it brings up a good point too, because this film kind of glosses over the whole Martha and Superman's father,
Pa can't.
Pa and Ma there in Kansas.
Something on the box.
Yeah, it glosses over it, and then it kind of wants to have this like nice heart to heart later on in the film. What do you think about that?
I think it's good because I mean, even like it's short, it's brief. We don't have to spend so much time with Ma and Pa Kent. I do like when they're like calling him and they're like trying to figure out how to work this thing, and she's like on the tablet, like that's fun. I thought that was a lot of fun. I think it's brief and short and it works. Like the whole when Pa Kent sits down and he's like it's not a parent's job to make you who you are. We give you all we're supposed to do is give you the tools and you be what you want to be and live the life that you think you need to lead, and I'm damn proud of you. Like, good enough. Brief and beautiful, hits the notes and, the whole have a harem and move on. Like, I thought we both thought that was Rob Reiner for a little bit,
Yeah, it really does look like a Rob Reiner. Unfortunately, you're going to tell me that it's not.
It's not, but I don't know who it is.
Unfortunately,
yeah, no, I thought Ma and Pa Kent were good. Like again, like it hits the right notes. It's not fucking Kevin Costner.
Mm.
One of my favorite, I think I've said it before in the Justice League, kind of show Ma and Pa Kent's like time with Clark as he's there for Christmas with Martian Manhunter because he's never celebrated Christmas before. When they're talking, they're sitting there and having hot cocoa and having a good time. Ma and Pa Kent are like, oh, this little guy used to get into so much trouble trying to look into his presents. Yeah, we had to wrap him in lead so he couldn't find out what they were. And then Clark just goes, you mean Santa wrapped them? And they're like, oh, sure, honey. like it's hilarious. Hilarious.
Yeah.
The man that lives, in the Fortress of Solitude doesn't know Santa's real or not. Great.
Right.
The thing, though, kind of piggybacking, though, what you were saying, though, that we were talking about with the whole news of, like, him having a harem, is the fact that everyone all of a sudden is like, they're watching the news, like, what? He what? Superman what?
Yeah, this
like it's like the media literacy and like films like this where it's like one story gets out and then like they're all just like everyone's like, I can't believe you. Like it's insulting. It's so insulting to people's intelligences overall. Like I know there's a herd and sheep mentality in society when it comes to like news and stuff, but holy shit. Like the man's sitting there saving a squirrel from a falling tower. And then, like, say, so Superman, you want to have sex with my mom?
Yeah, and I think that's another thing that kind of raises the red flag in this film for me is the fact that, like, it's just so over the top in the way people react to things. Because, again, it's very cut and dry. It's like there's a newscast and it says Superman, wants a harem and has been working against the humanity all the time when, like, clearly, he just literally saved a bunch of people multiple times throughout, and the cult of public opinion was really swayed towards Superman at one point, and then all of a sudden, it's just like one newscast, and everybody's like, okay, Superman sucks. And then not only that, later on, they announced like, oh, we just found all this information about Lex Luthor. And then people are just like, can't believe it. Yeah, I can't believe it. Like, in reality, people would be like, how could Lex Luthor do such a thing? I don't believe it.
Yeah.
There's just not a possibility that he's a billionaire savant, and I don't believe that he would do anything bad. It's just, I find it to be a little bit, like you said, it's insulting, not authentic, and I feel like that's how I felt for the most part of Superman. There's a couple of scenes where I was like, oh, fucking come on. Like that scene where the kid in Baravia is raising the Superman flag.
Superman! And they're just sitting there. All the people are there and they're like, yeah, the war's about to start, guys. You got Humvees and tanks and guys they all have silencers on their rifles for some fucking reason. And then I can't even pronounce the name of the country.
Or something like that.
Yeah, like, because it's so, like, bibbity bobbity.
Like,
but it's just them with clubs and, like, just like, oh no, this war. And it's like, you're trying to show genocide. But again, you're not calling it that. You're like, it's a war. Like,
they're like, yeah. And that sort of stuff bothers me a little bit. There's another scene too where there's a woman who's, again, a woman driver driving erratically, of course, and a fucking building's gonna fall on her car, and Superman comes to save the day, and she has to drive away and looks back and like, I can't believe Superman saved me from that. And it's just, again, it's just sort of like a ridiculous moment within the movie. I really don't like those moments of like extras having to be in there, of be like, well, I can't believe Superman thought my life was the one worth saving,
Well, yeah, I was telling you when we got done, like, the way Luthor to beat Superman is, you see that? You just saved that woman from that fucking tower falling down. Guess what? 10 people just died in Chicago from a bomb that went off that you didn't answer. Like, that's how you break the man of steel. Because it's like, you can't save everybody.
It's worth pointing out, too, that the people in Metropolis are probably pretty fucking dumb, because at one point there's a shot of, this universe-ripping tremor that's coming through. It's the Metropolis city is being decimated. You can watch it in the distance, and they show these people on, I don't even remember what they call it, but it's like some sort of like suburb or something. And they're like, what? What's happening? I can't believe, like, this tremor's going to be taking us. It's like, have you not been paying attention for like 20 minutes as Metropolis has been completely destroyed?
You didn't feel those tremors? Didn't feel those tremors while you were having brunch? Yeah, those mimosas must have been made extra. But it's funny. No, they're basically like the guys on Titanic. Like, this will be our final song.
Yeah,
We'll just sit here and have our frites, as we sink into the sun.
I know. All right. What else haven't we talked about? Anything else you want to?
Yeah, I think we got a lot of it.
I mean, we covered it. So I think, again, we're gonna summarize this a little bit, because I feel like the conversation skewed critical, and I do want to summarize in our rating exactly how we felt. So, on a scale of 0 to 10. Beck Bennett's, for some reason, making cameo appearances in this movie from somehow. And then not only that, but
not Michael Ian Black. You're going with Beck Bennett.
I'm going with that. And then also in the film incorporating Cat Grant's cleavage, like every single time.
Is that who the blonde is?
Cat Grant, which I don't feel like the film does not make very well known whatsoever.
No,
the blonde that's in Daily Planet, with
just
the
tits galore,
tits out for no reason. Like, again, the film has like no reason having the cleavage that it does from actress Michaela Hoover, but for some reason she's just in every shot in the Daily Planet.
Is it me, or does it feel like sometimes that Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane looks like a modern day Julia Louis-Dreyfus?
Yep, she can look like Julia Louis-Dreyfus at times. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, for sure. And also, we didn't point out, but Alan Tudyk getting yet another voice acting role, because this dude is everywhere with voice acting. What would you, so out of 0 out of 10, what would you give Superman? That was a very complicated rating scale, but
it's fine.
What would you give it?
I'll give it a 7 out of 10. It's not bad. I did have fun with the film. I did enjoy it, in spite of its numerous flaws. I do think it's a good starting point for whatever DC's planning on doing, because, again, and even though the movie is flawed greatly with its message and characters and such, they nail Superman. They nail, like, the wonderment and joy of the Man of Steel, I think. I think it feels great to have a film that's not just all piss and vinegar, that there's hope here. I think, David Cornsweet as Superman did a great job. He's very friendly and funny and charming. I think Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor was great. He was very comedic, very over the top. I'm not going to blame him, obviously, for the mishmash mix of tone. It's more James Gunn. I think James Gunn has a good directing style overall. I think, again, though, with like a next film, if he's involved in it, I don't want him writing it. I want him he can direct it, but I think writing, like, they need like a second hand, because again, he adds too much levity to scenes that don't need levity, just because it feels like he needs to add a joke a second every time just to keep things flowing. Because it made it feel a little too marvelly. But I think, like I said, I think it's a good movie. I think if you like Superman, you'll appreciate the fact that it has the Superman charm. But again, this isn't the film I think that people are going out and saying that it's like revolutionary or anything. Like, it's nothing like that. It's a very enjoyable but incredibly flawed piece of art. So 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. I think that it is a fine movie. I enjoyed it for the most part while I was watching it. I mean, I think it was entertaining, like sort of what you would expect from a blockbuster. I don't think it's James Gunn's best movie in like the actual superhero franchises that he's done. In this movie, I feel like it was just missing something that he infused with something like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. It has all the elements that you would expect from a superhero film, and it sort of kicks off the idea of Superman as a superhero in the DC universe, but it didn't really make me excited to check out a universe with these characters. I felt like Superman took a back seat in this movie, despite its name, and sort of everyone else was kind of focused on, to the point where it really felt like it took away from Superman a little bit. Even though I do think David Cornsweet did a good job as Superman. I think he's like the perfect embodiment of Superman, to be honest with you. Like, he's got that sort of boyish look to him. He's got the nice hair. Everything about him really screams Superman, and so I think that's really good. But at the same time, I don't really think that the film does a good job of showcasing Superman as a character, and it's really focused on too many elements. Lex Luthor, all of the other bad guys, a clone. It's just, there's too much going on. It takes too long to finish the film. I don't know. All of that sort of took away from my enjoyment. I also find the lack of like realism in it, or authenticism that we've talked about, to be a little bit of a bummer. I'm not looking for the film to be like extremely dour and serious, but at the same time, I feel like it does incorporate a little bit too much of the comedy element to it that takes away from the tone of the movie at times. So overall, I found it to be okay. I don't really think it's, again, it's not James Gunn's best movie. And I feel like it's just it's an okay start to the DC universe, but again, I'm not really looking forward to another Superman type movie. I actually am kind of looking forward to more something like a Green Lantern style movie, instead, because I found those to be more interesting than Superman at times. So I don't know that that's really the goal here. So again, I feel like it's really a mixed bag, and again, I am surprised kind of to see that I'm in the minority. A lot of people really seem to like Superman as a film. And so maybe I just didn't vibe with it as much as other people did, but I just, again, I couldn't really come to grips with some of the weird tonal shifts and changes that the film made. So 6 out of 10 for me. It's okay. Would I watch it again? Probably not, unless I was forced to. I don't really feel a need to go back to it. And again, kicking off the DC universe, it's okay, but it didn't really make me super excited to see the start, the genesis of where this is going. So, all right, well, that's our episode on Superman. I think we're going to try to get back to the movie theater again to go see I Know What You Did Last Summer, the 2025 remake. So that should be fun.
We were going to do the Phoenician Scheme because I'll have it on Blu-ray by the time next week rolls around when it comes out. But because our local theater, against all odds,
I know,
was having I Know What You Did Last Summer, kind of.
We'll just have to see how it works out. Maybe we'll try to record a couple and then just post them every now and then. So.
Well, not only that though, too. You said Eddington.
Yep,
the new Ari Aster film, and that is also against all odds in our local theater too.
That is pretty surprising, to be honest with you. I am surprised that they have that playing in wide release for us. So yeah, we had a busy schedule.
We're gonna be doing a lot of crap up until the new year.
Yeah, it's gonna be busy. So, well, we hope you enjoyed our episode on Superman. Let us know if you saw it, what you thought of it. Again, like I said, I feel like I'm in the minority about how I felt about it. So let us know what you think. And you could write to us at Blood and Black Rum Podcast. I guess it's perfect time to say this, really. Blood and Black Rum Podcast at gmail.com. Write to us. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, what you thought about Superman. We'll try to write back to you. Listen to us on any podcast app that you can think of. We're on Apple Podcasts, our home base at Spotify, whatever you use, we're on it. So subscribe to us, leave us a nice review. We're on Facebook and Blue Sky. Just search for us on there, Blood and Black Rum Podcast, and you can donate to us on our Patreon, our Spotify pages. Anything you donate goes back towards beer. So appreciate that. Anything else you want to add to the end of the episode before we close it out?
I think that's it.
I think we
check it out.
We covered it. So thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed. And until next time,
take care.